Hey everyone, welcome back to Story Spot. Today we've got a collection of jaw-dropping Reddit stories that dive deep into some seriously complicated relationship dynamics. From long-term engagements hitting unexpected snags to partners testing boundaries with bizarre requests, these situations will have you wondering what you would do in their shoes. As we go through each story, I want to hear what you think. Who's in the wrong? Who's being unreasonable? And what advice would you give if you were in these situations? Don't be shy, jump into the comments, and let's have a lively debate. And, of course, make sure to stick around to see the roller coaster of emotions that each story brings. Let's dive in. What would you do if, after years of being together, you found out your partner might not be as committed as you thought? Today's first story brings us to a woman questioning everything after her fiancé makes a thoughtless comment about dragging his feet on marriage. Is she right to give the ring back, or is it all a misunderstanding? The title of this story is AITA for giving my ring back after my fiancé made a comment to his guy friends regarding why we haven't gotten married. My fiancé and I, both 30, have been together for 8 years and engaged for 4 years. We got engaged right before COVID really hit, and obviously that put a huge halt on any sort of planning. And then, from there forward, life events halted it more. We became homeless, ended up pregnant, and having our child. Now we are back on our feet, but not financially where we could be yet. Back, roughly 5 months ago-ish. I brought up marriage and basically approached the idea of having a backyard wedding and a potluck. Basically going cheap because I don't really care so much about the wedding or price or whatever. I just want to wear a pretty dress and have all eyes on me and get married to the love of my life. I don't care about the expensive bells and whistles. When I brought it up, he told me that that wouldn't be a bad idea and that we could probably try planning for July-ish 2025. Okay, but we haven't really talked about it since that point as other stuff came up. Here's the issue though. About a month ago, we went down to our neighbour's home, people who have grown to be really good friends since we moved here 1.5 years ago. I was hanging out with the neighbour's wife and her best friend. My fiancé was hanging out with a group of 3 to 4 guys, having beers and working on vehicles. Well, one of the guys there was talking about his wife and said, "Once you get married, everything fucking stops." I overheard in the middle of the conversation, so I have no idea what stops during marriage, but it was a negative comment irregardless. But anyways, my fiancé then starts laughing and goes, "That's why I've been dragging my feet on marriage." And the guys just laughed and said, "Don't do it, man, it's a trap, etc, etc. It really hurt me, but I figured it was just locker room talk and tried my best to move on. But I couldn't let it go. It sat in the back of my head. So a couple weeks ago I brought up getting married again and just ran some ideas by him on simple things, like what he saw our wedding colours being. And he shut down a bit and said something to the effect of, "I think we need to weigh the pros and cons of being married first," and shut down the conversation. Instant plunge to my gut, honestly. So I walked outside to calm myself down, but I just couldn't shake it, honestly. So I went back inside and calmly handed him my ring back and asked him what he wanted for dinner. I didn't want to make a big deal, so there was no yelling, no crying, nothing. I was calm and moved on. But he instantly asked me what I was doing and why I gave the ring back. So I mentioned his comment to his buddies about dragging his feet, and now his comments about needing to wait and weigh the pros and cons before going through with anything. I told him that I don't want to wait, nor do I want to get my hopes up for a marriage that he's clearly changed his mind about. So I would rather he have the ring back and go into this without the sound of wedding bells in my head. Let's just move on basically. We can still be together, but I don't want my hopes up. Well, he got extremely defensive. Started saying, "I'm not saying it's not going to happen," or "You're being extreme for no reason. AITA?" Honestly, kudos to this woman for handling such a hurtful situation with calm and grace. Returning the ring wasn't extreme at all. She's simply adjusting her expectations, especially since it's becoming clear her fiancé may never be ready for marriage. Let's be real, many people would have walked away entirely after 8 years of commitment with no clear future in sight. She's willing to stay with him despite his hesitations, which is a huge testament to her love and patience. But stringing someone along without a clear answer? That's unfair. If he has doubts or reasons for dragging his feet, he owes her an honest conversation. What do you think? Should she keep holding on, or was returning the ring a smart move? Let me know in the comments. Next up, we have a woman who's drowning in work and school, yet her husband doesn't see the need to pitch in around the house. Is it fair to divide responsibilities based on who's earning more, or is he way out of line for thinking housework isn't his job? The title of this next story is My Husband, 27M, Doesn't Want to Split Housework with Me, 23F. I feel overwhelmed by cleaning his mess. What is the best way to confront him? My husband is working a full-time job as a coach trainer. I'm studying chemical engineering plus working a part-time job at the cafe to help us pay for our rent and groceries. I go to university 3 to 4 times a week from morning until evening, and I also work on projects at home. On the weekends, I usually work. Lately, I feel overwhelmed by the housework because I'm too tired to clean and cook. My husband has plenty of free time after work, but refuses to split the housework 50-50. He is saying that my university is not like a job, so there is no need to help me around the house. He usually just offers to cook 1 or 2 times a week, but I always have to clean up the mess after him. And when I cook, he never helps with cleaning. After work, he just chills, goes for a run, or wants to spend time with me. But I don't have time or energy for nothing, because all I do is study and clean. When I confront him about the problem, he just says that men are not like women. It is more natural for me to clean and cook, or that he is paying for almost everything. Lately, I feel like I want a divorce, because I can't imagine that I will have a child with someone who refuses to help me with anything. Wow, it's tough to hear how this wife is juggling work, school, and housework almost single-handedly. Marriage is supposed to be a partnership where both people contribute, not just financially, but also in everyday responsibilities, like cleaning and cooking. Household chores aren't women's work or men's work. They're just tasks that need doing, and both partners should pitch in to keep things balanced. What do you think? Should her husband step up and share the load, or does he have a point about who does what in a relationship? Let's talk about it in the comments. Our next story is a tough one. When a mother's health problems put her relationship on rocky ground, her husband unexpectedly files for divorce. But her choice to refuse full custody is sparking debate. Has she made the right decision, or is she abandoning her daughter? The title of the story is AITAH for refusing full custody of my daughter after my husband asked for a divorce. I, 31F, have been together with my husband, Alex, 33M, for 7 years, married for 4 years. Alex was always really excited about the prospect of children from the beginning of our relationship. I was always on the fence. I've seen how hard single moms have it. I promised myself I'd never be in that position. Plus, I work as a software engineer. I love my career and I didn't want to give it up to be a mum. After Alex and I got married, those fears went away. We were very much in love. I felt safe with him. I told him my fears and he said all the right things to make them vanish. So we tried for a baby and had our daughter Ramona 2 years after we got married. The pregnancy and first year with the baby was extremely hard on me. I had multiple health problems during and after the pregnancy that were life-threatening and altered my body permanently. I was disabled and nearly died once in the 6 months after I gave birth. And during this time, my husband grew distant and became angry frequently when we'd speak. I spent a lot of time in and out of the hospital and was unable to work, so a lot of the baby care went to him during this time. It was all I could do to stay alive and get better, being separated from my daughter and husband so much. Eventually, I did get better enough to help more with the baby, but after I was discharged from the hospital, he barely spoke to me. I want to clarify early that at no time did I ever neglect our daughter if I was able to care for her. I leaned on him a lot during this period, but I was also fighting for my health and my life so that I could continue to be there for her. If I had pushed myself too hard, I would have made it worse, or be dead. We stayed in a state of limbo like this for a while. I was still in recovery, not back to 100% yet, but able to resume a somewhat normal life, and we shared more responsibility with Ramona. I tried talking to him many times over the next 6 months, but it was more of the same thing. He wouldn't speak to me, or he'd get angry, and every little thing I did insist I was making things up and blame me for somehow criticizing him. It was a constant deflection from whatever was bothering him. I got another job about 9 months after the pregnancy, and things seemed to improve for a while, or at least I thought. Not long after Ramona's first birthday, Alex served me with divorce papers. He said he'd fallen out of love with me a long time ago and he was ready to start anew. I was in shock. Things had started to improve between us, but he explained that was because he'd decided to leave and he felt less unhappy. It was a Saturday when this happened, so I made sure he was going to be home to care for Ramona for the weekend. Then I packed a bag and left until Sunday evening. I didn't say where I was going, and truthfully, I didn't really go anywhere but drive. I drove 2 states over by the time I stopped. I needed to think. When I got back Sunday evening, he was pissed I'd left him alone with our daughter. He's always seemed really put off any time he had to care for her alone. This time was no exception. I sat him down and very carefully said, "I will grant you a no-contest divorce, but I am not accepting full custody of Ramona." If he was only pissed before, he was explosive now, and everything he hated about me finally came out. That I was a horrible mother, that I wasn't strong enough to even be a mother, that I was too weak to carry a child and now I was abandoning her. I very calmly stated that I loved her dearly and would not abandon her, that I would pay child support and visit her every other weekend, that I would be there for her in any way I could. But I had been very clear with him when we got married that I would never be a single mum. He became borderline violent at this, grabbing things like he was going to throw them and screaming that I was ruining his life on purpose. I wasn't going to stick around to be talked to like this. So I went and checked on Ramona, gave her a kiss, then grabbed my bag and left again. A couple of days later, his mother texted me. He'd left Ramona with her for a few days, and she had some nasty things to say to me. That a mother should never leave her child, etc. I told her it wasn't her business and that her son doesn't get a free pass to restart his life because his wife nearly died when she was pregnant, and he became resentful with the responsibility. He's also blown up my phone asking me when I'm going to come back, so you can take your daughter, but I've only replied, I've already told you what's going to happen here. I love my daughter immensely and I will be a provider for her. I will always support her, but I won't be her primary parent. So, AITAH, let's talk about this husband. He pushed for a child, convinced his wife to embrace the idea, but now that he's fallen out of love, he thinks he can clock out of parenting, and somehow it's just assumed she'll step in as a single mum. Society really sets up this unfair expectation that women will automatically take on full custody after a breakup. Being a single parent is hard enough without it being expected just because you're the mother. I have to say, I'm proud of her for knowing her limits and standing her ground, especially when it seems like her husband might already have someone else in the picture, someone who clearly isn't on board with a full-time child in the mix. And then there's the mother-in-law, who should be holding her son accountable for abandoning his wife after her traumatic birth experience. Instead, she's throwing out outdated, sexist ideas about mothers never leaving their kids. The mom here isn't abandoning anyone. She's just refusing to take on all the responsibility alone. Do you think she's doing the right thing by refusing full custody? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. This next story is about revenge served cold. After an ex completely ghosted her, a woman runs into him unexpectedly at the grocery store. She decides to act like she doesn't even know him. Is she petty, or does he deserve it for the way he treated her? The story is titled AITAH for pretending I didn't know my ex. I, 29F, was in a secret relationship with Shane, 27M, for 2 years. The relationship was a normal relationship, except nobody knew about it. Because I'm a bigger girl and I've never been in a relationship, I didn't push the issue. After 2 years of Shane living with me, I came home to all of his belongings gone. I tried to call him, but he blocked my phone number and blocked me on Snapchat. He completely ghosted me. I find out through a mutual friend that he was in a public relationship with a woman named Jess. It hurt, but I couldn't change anything, so I just accepted it. 3 weeks ago, a year after he ghosted me, I heard he was supposed to marry Jess, but he caught her cheating. I also heard that his grandfather passed away last month. Last night, I ran into him at the grocery store. He walked up to me and said, "Hey, how have you been?" I looked at him funny and said, "I'm sorry. Do I know you?" He was stunned. After a second, I walked past him and continued on my way. I told a mutual friend who said that I was cruel and mean for doing that when he's going through a rough time. That friend doesn't know about the secret relationship. The friends in my friend group know that me and Shane no longer speak and that we dislike each other. But I haven't told them the truth because they wouldn't believe me. Shane is very attractive and I'm fat. Also, I'm pretty embarrassed about falling for it and being so desperate for affection that I just accepted how I was treated. I feel kind of bad because in my anger, I forgot what he was going through. He was very close to his grandpa. Am I the a-hole? It's easy to understand why she acted the way she did. After being ghosted and kept hidden for 2 years, she probably wanted to show him just how much his actions hurt her. Honestly, she doesn't owe Shane anything. He didn't give a second thought to her feelings when he disappeared to date someone else. Yes, it's unfortunate that his girlfriend cheated on him, and that he's dealing with his grandfather's passing, but that doesn't erase the way he treated her. The fact that he hid their entire relationship and then left without a word is truly baffling. And let's be real, if she'd acknowledged him, who's to say he wouldn't have done the same thing to her all over again? What do you all think? Did she handle it the right way, or would you have reacted differently? Let's talk about it in the comments. Finally, we have a story that shows just how quickly relationship boundaries can blur. When a boyfriend suggests a property tattoo, his girlfriend laughs it off, but soon, things take a darker turn as he becomes more controlling. Is he truly sorry, or are there red flags she can't ignore? The final story is titled, "BF got mad after I refused his property tattoo idea." I, 23F, have been dating my boyfriend, 26M, for almost 2 years. Recently, during sex, he brought up this wild idea of tattooing his name plus the word property, so it would read John's property on me down there, so I'd be officially his. It caught me off guard, but since we were in the middle of roleplay, I just went along with it and said yes to that, since it was just bedroom talk. Fast forward a few days later, and he casually brought it up again, asking if I'd be okay with him tattooing that phrase on me down there. I thought he was still joking, so I played along sarcastically, telling him I'd love to get it tattooed, thinking there's no way he was serious. Now, 5 days after this incident, he actually ordered an $800 tattoo pen. I was so thrown off, and honestly felt super weird about it. I told him that I thought he wasn't serious at all. He got really disappointed and said he was serious because he's already tattooed my name on his collarbone. Since he knows I don't want a visible tattoo, he figured this would be a good compromise because no one else would see it but him. This seems really controlling to me, and this controlling behaviour has been surfacing more frequently, like he insists on knowing exactly where I am at all times and gets upset if I don't respond to his texts right away. We ended up having this ridiculous argument yesterday. He's upset, saying he'd gladly tattoo my name or anything related to me anywhere on his body again, so he can't understand why I won't do this one thing for him. I told him I wasn't okay with this, and eventually he calmed down and agreed to drop it. But I can still sense that he's mad at me and upset that I wouldn't do something for him that he would do for me without hesitation. Honestly, I can't believe this is even a real argument. I know this is serious and I don't want to ignore the signs, but it's hard for me to look at it that way because I love him more than anyone. He genuinely loves me and is always checking up on me and making sure I'm okay. He is always there for me, even in my hardest times when no one was there to help me. I'm genuinely worried about how our relationship could escalate, especially considering he has a short temper and he has started being so controlling recently. What should I do? I feel really bad and suffocated when I'm the reason he gets upset regarding something. Alright, before I dive into my thoughts on this story, let's go over the additional details that OP shared. I didn't share much about our relationship, and there's a lot to consider. I know a lot of you are saying I should leave him, and that he is a red flag. It's not that easy for me because he's never shown any manipulative signs before. He cares about me a lot and never made me feel like I'm a burden to him in any way. He moved countries for me, quit his job, and went through the hassle of finding a new one near where we live now. He stopped talking to his parents because they don't like me and wouldn't accept our relationship, because from their point of view, I have too much influence on him and that I am distancing him from his family, when in reality I am not. In all our disagreements, even though he's short-tempered, he's never yelled at me or showed any signs of hitting me. He always respected my boundaries regarding literally anything, except a couple times when he annoyed the shit out of me asking my location 24/7 and asking who I am hanging out with, which happened recently. He is close with my family, and all my friends like him. I haven't told them about the recent stuff. It's not like he's ever tried to isolate me or anything. He came up to me today, bringing up the tattoo thing. He admitted that it was a stupid kink and fantasy he had in his mind. He got carried away with it. He said he was truly ashamed and disgusted by how he reacted to it, and feels horrible for making me uncomfortable with him for even having such an idea. It really got to him, and he started crying, saying he knows this recent controlling behaviour is damaging our relationship. Says he needs second chance and hopes I don't give up on him because he genuinely needs help. He had been thinking about his behaviour from the past months and it had been bothering him, but he was unable to address it to me because he fears I would break up with him. He kept apologising, saying he wasn't thinking straight when he ordered the tattoo pen. He made it clear that he won't ever force me or pressure me to do anything or get mad for things if I don't want to do it, and won't question my decision ever again. He suggested we go couple therapy and he's ready to work on himself because he feels like he's losing control over his actions and doesn't fully understand why this is happening. I really appreciate the advice and support, and I'll definitely be keeping it in mind as I figure out what should I do. That was a lot. Being in a relationship with a controlling person can be incredibly difficult, and the woman in this story seems genuinely confused about what to do. It's alarming that her boyfriend made such a strange request, even if it was initially framed as a joke, because the fact that he was serious is downright scary. Wanting to have her branded like cattle? That's a major red flag. Throughout her post, she mentions the controlling behaviours he exhibited, yet she tries to justify them in her edit. She claims he's not manipulative, but begging her to help him with his control issues in this manner is manipulative in itself. She's clearly feeling guilty about his relationship with his parents and the sacrifices he made for her, but those thoughts don't negate the potential for abuse. It's concerning when someone feels they can't lose their partner because they've given up everything for them. That can lead to dangerous situations, especially if they feel their control slipping away. Just because he hasn't hit her now doesn't mean he won't in the future, and her perception that he's not manipulating her doesn't change the reality of his actions. I can't help but think that if she shared the full story with her family and friends, they would have a very different perspective on him. Let's hear it from you. Is this a sign of deeper issues, or can people genuinely change if they're willing to seek help? Comment with your thoughts. Could you forgive and move forward, or is this a line that can't be uncrossed? Thanks for sticking around to hear all these stories. Each one highlights some intense and thought-provoking situations, from re-evaluating lifelong commitments and dealing with controlling partners to navigating co-parenting and handling deep betrayals. Relationships, whether romantic or familial, can be so complicated, and these stories show just how different people's experiences can be. What do you think about these situations? Was the wife justified in returning the ring? Should the husband in story 3-step up as a father? And how about that wild tattoo request? Was that the ultimate red flag? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing your takes, whether you agree, disagree, or have a totally different perspective. Let's keep the discussion respectful and insightful. Until next time, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.